Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Tom Sherry.
It's good to have you here today. I'm Whitney Ward. Temperatures back on the rise again, kissing that 100-degree mark possibly this weekend. Now Idaho has declared a state of emergency, even mobilized the National Guard to potentially battle wildfires.
So we'll have more on Idaho's response to these extreme fire conditions in just a minute. But first, let's get right to what we can expect this weekend. It is another hot one. We've got a heat advisory now in effect for Saturday up through Saturday evening. Everywhere you see shaded in orange, that's because temperatures are going to get close to 100 degrees or above 100 degrees. We've got sunshine, and even Sunday will be a few degrees cooler, but again, temperatures will be in the upper 90s, and it doesn't cool down. Most of next week we'll have temperatures in the 90s as well. 89 degrees. We'll see temperatures tomorrow, probably 10 degrees hotter than what we're seeing for our current temperature. I've got 99 on Saturday, 97 degrees on Sunday. I'll check the rest of your 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Now, back to Idaho. Today, Governor Brad Little issued an emergency declaration due to wildfires that are burning in the state. With that declaration, the governor has mobilized Idaho Guard firefighters and air crews to help.
So with the extreme drought, the heat, the fires, and the high demand for firefighting across the region, more resources are simply needed right now. The Idaho Department of Lands has now requested that emergency declaration, and this is the first time the department requested National Guard resources. The Lands Department also requested its own staff or anyone with fire line qualifications to make themselves available for wildfire assignments.
In a written statement, the governor says, quote, "We need all hands on deck," and he's grateful that the men and women of the Guard are able to step in to support Idaho communities. And he thanks Idahoans for taking steps to prevent human-caused wildfires during a season where Idaho is particularly vulnerable.
Now, in the meantime, all 5 Panhandle counties, plus part of Latah and Nez Perce counties, are now bracing for new fire restrictions. Those will officially go into effect next week as this historically dry July continues. So stage 2 fire restrictions go into effect on Monday in those counties. That means no fires, no charcoal burning will be allowed, period, beyond city limits. Carrie Maddox with Idaho Panhandle National Forest says in her time living in Idaho, she hasn't even seen a jump to this level of restrictions so early in the year.
We usually like to go stage 1 first and see how effective that is as a prevention measure. But the amount of fires that we're seeing and the drought conditions and fuels conditions that we're seeing has necessitated that jump. We don't have the resources. We can't afford any more fires on the forest. So anything that folks can do to not have any human-caused starts would be a great help to all the firefighting resources out there.
So here's how you at home can help minimize fire danger near your house. Idaho state law requires a minimum of 100 feet of clearance around the structures of your home of flammable vegetation. Trimming healthy trees so branches are 6 feet off the ground and 10 feet from your chimney. Removing any old dead trees and keeping weeds and grass below 6 inches.
Also today, Washington state issued emergency heat exposure rules to increase protection for outdoor workers. So now employers must take additional precautions to prevent heat-related illness. The emergency rule filed by the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries is aiming just to protect those who work in agriculture, construction, and other outdoor industries. In a statement, Governor Jay Inslee said in part, our state has rules in place to ensure these risks are mitigated. However, the real impacts of climate change have now changed conditions since those rules were first written, and we are responding. So coming up tonight in our 5 o'clock hour, we'll give you a breakdown of those brand new rules.
And some new information tonight. Fire crews have responded to high response brush fire near East Mansfield Avenue. Crews are now mopping up the fire that began burning near an apartment complex in Spokane Valley. Now, according to Spokane Valley Fire Department, it's unclear how the fire started. The fire burned about half an acre. It did not damage structures or lead to any injuries.
Also, take a look at this video. Fire crews worked quickly to knock down what they called the Whitehall Road fire. This was last night after a pop-up lightning storm near Cooley Meadows. Very strong gusty winds actually created blackout conditions and blowing dust for firefighters. That also caused the fire to spread in pretty much every direction. It happened in Douglas County near Whitehall Road, which is just west of Spokane. The fire reached about 150 acres before crews and help from a farmer were able to clear it right around midnight. Also, the Andres fire, which is burning near Cheney, holding steady right now. It burned 232 acres. It's still considered 55% contained. There are a few level 1 evacuations in place. It's for about 24 homes. The good news is no structures have been lost.
And the Batterman Road fire is scorching more than 14,000 acres over in East Wenatchee. At last check, it's only 50% contained, but all evacuation levels have now been lowered to level 1.
Meanwhile, the Asotin Complex fire, which is burning near Clarkston, Lewiston, now more than 28,000 acres. And there are level 3 evacuations in place for several nearby communities. Crews there now have the fire at 10% containment, but it's pretty big. A Red Cross shelter has now been set up for evacuees. That is at Lincoln Middle School. So again, this has all changed quite a bit, even in 24 hours since we were talking about it last. So we know it's a lot of information. We're working 24/7 just to make sure that you stay informed.
And remember, you can always stay in the know by texting the word FIRE to 509-448-2000. We'll send a link to our live updates on krem.com. Well, new at 4 o'clock, dozens of city and county employees picketed outside the Spokane County Courthouse today. Union contract negotiations are at an impasse.
Yeah, so in fact, they can't even really get started, even though previous last contracts have already expired last year. Our political reporter Casey Decker is joining us live now here in the studio to explain why. Hi, Casey.
Hey, Whitney, Tom. Well, the conflict all centers around a debate over one issue. Should bargaining between local governments and their workers' unions be done in private or in public? Historically, these meetings have been private, but in recent years, both the city and the county have passed measures requiring they be public. Proponents of such measures include County Commissioner Josh Kearns and City Councilman Michael Cathcart. They say they provide much needed transparency about where taxpayer money will go. But union workers and leaders say they open the door to bad faith arguments and excessive politicization of these vital contracts.
People with agendas could be disruptors. Recordings can be cut and pasted and misrepresented.
If these are open meetings for the public to see and to understand, then no, I think the risk of manipulated content is probably the lowest it could possibly be.
Now, in the city, voters overwhelmingly approved a charter amendment 2 years ago requiring that these meetings be made public. In the county, commissioners made that requirement via a resolution, but the unions say the measures violate state labor law. They won't come to the table unless the meetings are private. The government won't come to the table unless the meetings are public, and so there's gridlock. So how might all of this end? Well, one side or the other could capitulate, but that seems unlikely. Some middle ground could be reached, some sort of agreement where certain aspects of negotiations are made public, but not all of them. Or we could just stay in this holding pattern until the courts or state labor board rule. This battle, after all, not just a PR battle, it's also being fought in the legal system. And that's the system that may end up deciding how these negotiations will take place. Tom, Whitney.
Well, the historic heat wave that we are experiencing this summer have people scrambling to find ways to keep cool.
Yeah, we have a few tips for you on ways to beat the heat, especially as we get ready for the weekend. We're back after a quick break.